She stepped off her private jet, furious it had failed midair, only to meet the grease-covered mechanic who would change her life forever. He had nothing. She had everything. But within minutes, the balance of power shifted, and what she did next shocked everyone. Before we dive into this incredible story, please take a moment to support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support means the world and helps us bring you more true life stories like this one. Now let's begin. Tyler Grayson was used to working under pressure. At 32, he was a seasoned aircraft mechanic in a small regional airport outside Austin, Texas. Life hadn't been kind lately. His father's medical bills had buried him in debt, and his shop barely scraped enough to keep the lights on. But Tyler never let the weight of the world show in his work. His hands were steady, his mind sharp, and his heart full of grit. It was supposed to be a routine Wednesday. Tyler was working on a stubborn Cessna when the airport manager rushed in, looking frazzled. "Ty, we've got a problem. Big one. A private Gulfstream just made an emergency landing. Something's wrong with the engine, and the owner is, well, she's someone important. Can you check it out?" "Sure," Tyler said, wiping grease off his palms. "Lead the way." He didn't expect what he saw. The jet gleamed like new money, sleek and massive, with a gold emblem stamped on the side that read, Hawthorne Industries. Standing beside it in designer heels and a beige trench coat was a striking woman in her early 40s, arguing with her pilot. Her name was Savannah Hawthorne, CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech firms in America, and billionaire heiress to a legacy of innovation. She looked over when Tyler approached, and for a brief second, their eyes met. "You're the mechanic?" she asked skeptically. "Yes, ma'am," Tyler replied, not flinching. She crossed her arms. "The engine's overheating and making an odd grinding noise. Can you fix it?" "I'll do my best," he said, already walking toward the hatch. As Tyler examined the engine, he quickly spotted the issue, a faulty fuel regulator. Not only that, but a wiring error had caused a short circuit, something that could have easily led to disaster midair. "This could have gone real bad," he muttered. He worked quickly, efficiently, barely noticing the billionaire watching from a distance. 2 hours later, he climbed down, wiping sweat from his brow. "Try it now," he called to the pilot. The jet's engine purred like a dream. Savannah's skeptical look turned into one of curiosity. She walked over, her heels clicking on the tarmac. "You just saved me a fortune and maybe my life. You really know what you're doing." "Been doing this since I was 16, Tyler shrugged. "It's just about paying attention." She paused, studying him. "You don't just pay attention, you care. That's rare." He didn't quite know how to respond, so he just nodded. Savannah smiled. "You know, I've met a lot of men who can talk a big game, but I've never seen someone so real." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "Well, I'm not much for games, ma'am." She laughed, a genuine laugh. "Call me Savannah." The sun dipped low over the Texas horizon, casting an amber glow on the tarmac. Tyler figured his job was done. He started packing up his tools when Savannah called out, "Wait." He turned, half expecting another inspection request. But instead she said, "Have dinner with me." Tyler blinked. "Excuse me?" Savannah smiled, a little amused at his confusion. "You just saved my jet from blowing up midair. Least I can do is buy you a meal. There's a great steakhouse not far from here, unless you're too tired." Tyler hesitated. This woman, this billionaire, was way out of his league. He didn't dine with CEOs. He fixed their jets while they sipped champagne in the lounge. Still, something in her voice wasn't patronizing. It felt genuine. "I know a decent BBQ joint up the road," he said. "You sure you want to eat somewhere where the plates don't match?" Savannah grinned. "That's exactly what I want." They drove in Tyler's beat-up Ford pickup. The passenger door didn't open from the outside, and the radio only played country stations. But Savannah didn't complain. She rolled down the window, letting the warm wind tousle her neatly styled hair. At Buck's BBQ, Tyler was greeted like family. A waitress named Lila winked at him. "Got yourself a hot date tonight, Ty?" Savannah chuckled while Tyler turned a shade redder than the smoked brisket. "Just dinner," he muttered. They found a booth near the jukebox. Over pulled pork and sweet tea, conversation flowed easily. Savannah talked about her upbringing in Palo Alto, how her father had taught her business strategy at the dinner table. Tyler shared stories about growing up fixing tractors with his granddad and rebuilding engines from scrap. "You ever think about leaving this place?" Savannah asked. Tyler shrugged. "Sometimes, but my shop's here. My dad's here. My roots run deep." She nodded, respecting that. "You're loyal. I like that." As the night wore on, she asked questions no one else bothered to ask, about his dreams, his regrets, what he'd do if money weren't a problem. "I'd open a school," he said eventually, "for young mechanics. Teach them hands-on stuff. College ain't for everyone." Savannah's eyes lit up. "That's incredible. Why haven't you?" Tyler laughed softly. "Money. You might have heard it doesn't grow on the trees out here." There was a pause. She looked at him. Not as a billionaire to a mechanic, but woman to man. "You know, Tyler, I've met people with fancy degrees and padded resumes, but none of them could have fixed what you did today or speak the way you just did about something that matters." He shook his head, unsure of what to say. "Well, I just fix things, ma'am." Savannah leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "Maybe it's time someone fixed things for you." The next morning, Tyler awoke before sunrise like always, but something about the day felt different. He still smelled like BBQ sauce and jet fuel, and there was a missed call from a number he didn't recognize. When he called back, Savannah answered. "Morning, Mr. Mechanic," she said cheerfully. "Hope you're not regretting our dinner date." Tyler chuckled. "Only regret is that I didn't try the peach cobbler. I'll have to make it up to you." He sat up, suddenly feeling like the floor had tilted. "You didn't call just for small talk, did you?" "You're sharp," she said. "I've been thinking about what you said last night, about that mechanic school. I want to help you build it." Tyler froze. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack. I can fund the whole thing, tools, space, staff, everything. You'd run it, of course. It'd be yours." He rubbed his forehead. "Look, I appreciate the offer, I really do, but I'm not a charity case. Neither was I when my father took a chance on me at 22, Savannah said firmly. "This isn't charity. This is an investment in someone real." Tyler didn't respond for a moment. No one had ever believed in him like that. He didn't give her a yes, but he didn't say no either. Later that day, he went by the hospital to visit his father, Hank. The old man, once strong as an ox, now lay in a fragile frame, hooked up to machines that beeped rhythmically. "Got company last night," Tyler said, sitting beside him. Hank smirked. "Let me guess, more engines breaking down?" "Actually, it was a jet this time. Belonged to a billionaire." "Hope you charged her double." Tyler chuckled. "She bought me dinner, and now she wants to help me start that school I told you about." Hank raised an eyebrow. "And you're here instead of signing that deal?" "Just wanted to hear what you think." Hank coughed lightly, then said, "Son, don't let pride keep you from building something that matters. You got a gift. Let her help you use it." That night, Tyler couldn't sleep. He paced the floor of his cramped apartment, memories of failure swirling in his mind. The shop he'd tried to expand once, the business partner who bailed, the loan he still hadn't paid off. But then there was Savannah's voice, clear and steady. "Maybe it's time someone fixed things for you." The next morning, Tyler showed up at her temporary suite in Austin, toolbox still in hand. "I figured if I was going to say yes," he said, "I should probably shake hands like a man." Savannah smiled, but instead of offering her hand, she reached out and hugged him. "You just made the best decision of your life," she whispered. Within a week, the wheels were in motion. Savannah didn't waste time. Her legal team drew up the framework for the mechanic training program, a real nonprofit that would be funded by her foundation, but fully run by Tyler. She even leased an old warehouse near the airfield for renovations. But not everyone was thrilled. Word spread quickly in the small town of Elmsford. Tyler Grayson, the broke mechanic, was suddenly rubbing elbows with a billionaire. Some folks were proud, others, not so much. At the diner, Lila leaned across the counter as Tyler sipped his morning coffee. "Heard Savannah Hawthorne was seen leaving your place last night. You two dating now, or just business?" Tyler shifted in his seat. "It's a partnership. She's funding the school." She said with a smirk. "Partnership, my foot. You better be careful, Ty. People like her don't stay long in towns like ours. They play with shiny toys and move on. He forced a smile, but didn't respond. Even at the hangar, the older mechanics began whispering. Grayson thinks he's better than us now, someone muttered behind his back, wearing new boots and driving that billionaire's Tesla like he owns the place. The truth was, Savannah had loaned him the Tesla for errands, and she'd insisted on buying him new work boots after noticing the hole in his left one. Still, the whispers gnawed at him. He tried ignoring it until it reached his father. Son, Hank said during a hospital visit, I know people are talking, but don't let their small minds shrink your big plans. Tyler sighed. It's not just the talk, Dad. It's me. I keep thinking, what if they're right? What if this is just temporary for her? You mean Savannah? Hank raised an eyebrow. You think she's just playing charity? I don't know. Maybe. We're from different worlds. She's all class and I'm just oil-stained hands and bad credit. Hank grabbed his son's wrist with surprising strength. You're more than what you owe or wear. That woman saw something in you. Let her. Tyler left the hospital feeling a little steadier. But the real test came later that evening, when Savannah invited him to an upscale networking event for tech entrepreneurs and investors in downtown Austin. Tyler walked in feeling like a bull in a crystal shop. He wore his only suit, an old gray one that didn't quite fit, and stood stiffly beside Savannah while people in designer outfits mingled around them. One man, a smug venture capitalist named Blake Forrester, eyed Tyler curiously. Savannah, who's your friend? Don't tell me he's your new business advisor. Tyler offered a polite handshake. Name's Tyler. I fix jets and build futures. Blake chuckled mockingly, but Savannah's hand found Tyler's. He's not just a mechanic, she said. He's the man I believe in. The room quieted slightly. Tyler's heart thudded. That's when it hit him. This wasn't just a project to Savannah. She wasn't doing this out of pity. She was doing it out of something else. And it might just be love. The days that followed moved like thunderclouds, fast and heavy. Savannah's declaration at the investor gala had rippled far beyond the event. A photo of her and Tyler holding hands ended up on a local blog, then got picked up by a national business gossip site. Jet set billionaire dating blue-collar mechanic? Tyler tried to shrug it off, but when he walked into the auto supply store and saw the cashier staring at her phone with his photo on it, he realized things had shifted for good. Back at the hangar, his longtime coworker Joe pulled him aside. Look, man, I respect you, but if you think this fairy tale's gonna last, you're setting yourself up to get burned. Billionaires don't marry mechanics. They marry other billionaires. Tyler didn't respond. He just tightened his grip on the wrench in his hand. But it wasn't just the whispers or the headlines. The school project had hit a snag too. The warehouse they'd planned to renovate had a hidden mold problem. The contractors quoted nearly double the original estimate. Savannah's legal team urged her to pull out and wait for a better location. It's not a good investment, one advisor warned, especially not for someone you barely know. When Tyler heard that, something cracked inside him. That night, they met on the rooftop of her penthouse suite overlooking the Austin skyline. Savannah had wine in hand. Tyler had dirt under his nails. He'd come straight from the shop, frustration still burning in his chest. I hear your people want you to back out, he said, not mincing words. Savannah nodded slowly. They're worried. About me? He asked. Number. About losing money? About the media circus? About protecting my image? Tyler stared at her. And what about you? Are you worried? She stepped forward. Yeah, I am. I'm worried that you'll walk away before we even get this off the ground. I've fought my whole life to be taken seriously, he said, and now that someone finally sees me, the whole world acts like it's a joke. I don't care what the world thinks, she said softly. I care what you think, about yourself, about us. There was a long silence between them. Tyler looked down at his boots, then back at her face. Why me, Savannah? You could be with anyone. Why a broke mechanic with baggage and a rusty pickup? She reached out and took his grease-streaked hands in hers. Because you look at me like I'm not a brand or a number. Because when my jet failed, you didn't just fix it. You saved my life. And because you're the only man I've met who's real in a world full of fakes. Tyler exhaled. The anger melted. The doubt softened. I'm not good at fancy words, he said. But I'm not going anywhere. Not if you're still in. Savannah smiled. I'm all in. 2 months later, the old warehouse that once sat forgotten and crumbling near Elmsford's airfield buzzed with new life. Bright banners read, Grayson Academy of Mechanical Arts, and a fresh coat of blue and silver paint shimmered in the morning sun. Tyler stood out front with Savannah, watching volunteers haul in toolboxes, lift benches, and welding gear. Former students, old colleagues, and even a few skeptical locals had come to lend a hand. It was happening for real this time. The school wasn't just brick and mortar anymore. It had become a symbol of what grit, trust, and second chances could build. Savannah was there through it all, not as a guest, not as a billionaire swooping in, but as a partner. She cleaned, lifted, painted, and planned. And somewhere in the middle of hanging lights and writing scholarship plans, her heart and Tyler's intertwined so completely, even the nosiest gossip blogs couldn't deny it anymore. They were the real deal, but Tyler had a plan of his own brewing. Late one evening, after a long day of work, he pulled up to the hangar where it had all started. Savannah had just finished helping sort donated equipment and was wiping grease from her hands with a rag when she spotted him. You're late, she teased. I had a detour, he said with a grin. He opened the back of his old truck, and inside, nestled beside a rebuilt turbo engine, was a small square box. Savannah blinked. That better not be a fancy alternator. Tyler chuckled. Nope. Thought I'd try building something that doesn't need bolts and wires. He stepped closer, the Texas wind picking up around them. I used to think I was built for engines and nothing else, that maybe love was something for clean people. People without baggage, he said. But then you showed up with a busted jet and turned my world upside down. He dropped to one knee. I've got nothing fancy to offer, just this school, this town, and my heart. But I'd spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth your yes. He opened the box. Inside was a ring unlike any she'd ever seen, simple, handcrafted, and set with a stone cut from her grandmother's old necklace, which Tyler had secretly restored. Savannah stared, stunned. Took you long enough, she whispered. Then she dropped to her knees too, right there on the oil-stained tarmac, and kissed him. Yes, she said. Yes to you. Yes to this crazy life. Yes to all of it. Cheers erupted from behind the hangar. Unbeknownst to her, Tyler had gathered a small crowd, his dad, her assistants, and a few of their closest friends. Even Joe the skeptic raised a beer in their honor. That night, under the stars and the flickering light of string bulbs hung across the school entrance, they danced. No music, no press, no filters. Just a mechanic and a billionaire, finally on the same page. A year later, Elmsford had changed. The old warehouse turned school was now a thriving campus, buzzing with energy. The Grayson Academy of Mechanical Arts had over 100 enrolled students, most of them from underprivileged backgrounds who'd never dreamed of working on aircraft or getting certified in advanced mechanics. Thanks to Savannah's funding and Tyler's hands-on leadership, those dreams weren't just alive, they were airborne. But the real transformation hadn't just been in the town, it was in Tyler. Gone was the man who used to doubt his worth. Now he walked with quiet confidence, balancing torque wrenches and lesson plans, fixing engines by day and building futures by night. Savannah, too, had shifted. No longer the untouchable billionaire on magazine covers, she'd traded boardroom tables for community potlucks and charity fundraisers. And while she still ran her empire, she did it from the guest room turned office in the farmhouse she and Tyler now shared on the edge of town. The farmhouse was old, with creaky floors and a wraparound porch, but Savannah had insisted on keeping it. Money builds walls, she once said. Love needs open doors. They married beneath an oak tree on that same property, surrounded by wildflowers and people who had once doubted they'd make it. Tyler's father, now fully recovered, walked with a cane and stood proudly beside his son as best man. Savannah's friends flew in from New York and Paris, but they left their high heels at the door and danced barefoot in the grass. Their vows were simple. I don't want a perfect life, Tyler had said. I just want a real one, with you. Savannah smiled through tears. And I want someone who remembers where he came from, even as he helps others rise. The wedding was small, But the town threw a party afterward that stretched into the next morning. And for the first time in decades, Elmsford felt like it wasn't just a place people passed through, but a place people came back to. One afternoon, a year to the day after they'd first met, Savannah surprised Tyler with a visit to the private airfield. There, gleaming in the sunlight, was her private jet, freshly painted. Only this time, across the side in bold navy letters, it read, Grayson 1. Tyler's jaw dropped. "You didn't?" "I did," she grinned. "It's our flying classroom now. We'll take students to real jobs, real contracts, real hope." He turned to her, awed. "Savannah, you've given me everything." "No," she said, leaning in. "We built everything. Together." As the plane lifted off that day with their first graduating class aboard, Tyler and Savannah stood hand in hand, watching it rise. From the tarmac where it all began, love had taken flight. From a broken jet on a dusty tarmac to building a life and a legacy together, Tyler and Savannah proved that love doesn't care about class, money, or headlines. It only cares about heart. This was another powerful, true life-inspired story. If it touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Hope Stories. We've got more incredible stories coming your way, so stay tuned,